Well, good afternoon. Welcome to this meeting of the Planning Committee. My name is John Walsh. I'm Chairman of the Planning Committee. The members present include the Vice Chairman, Councillor Ayu, supported this afternoon by planning officers who will be introduced if necessary. Nicola Raby from the Council Legal Department and Susan Bailey, who will be running the meeting as Committee Administrator, taking the minutes and recording votes. For the benefit of those who are here for various items on the agenda, can I advise you that we will not this afternoon be dealing with the application for the site at Open Gate Caravan Park, Viva Street, Bolton. That item stands deferred until a future meeting. We will also be dealing with them in a slightly different order than on the agenda, and that we're dealing first of all with the St James School site, then the Rocker Restaurant, land south of Freshfield Avenue, and finally Daffodil Road. But we will go through the process for each application as we come to them. So item 1 on the agenda, declarations of interest. If there are declarations, can we record them please in the chat box? Thank you. Councillor Howarth and Councillor Sanders.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I need to declare, please, on 0947120, and that's because I'm on the school board there, and that's an application you're going to hear later today. So I'm not going to take part in the application, and to just alert the officers, I might need some help getting back in the meeting because it's not the last item. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Councillor Sanders.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The first item on the agenda, 09148/20, the application for St James's Secondary School, Farnworth. I won't be taking part. I'll be leaving committee shortly. I've had open conversations with both the school and residents on this application.
Thank you. And Councillor Mystery.
Thank you, Chair. It's application number 09670/12. I live in the same vicinity as this application. I haven't had any conversation or talk with the applicant, but I will be staying for the meeting.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, we move then to urgent business. Nothing has been brought to my attention. So item 3, apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, we've had an apology for absence today from Councillor Wilkinson, but Councillor Newall is here in his place.
Thank you very much. Item 4, it's the previous meeting. These have been circulated.
Move them, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hornby. Unless I hear dissent, then those meters are approved.
Second that, Chair.
Thank you. Item 5, therefore, are planning applications reported director of place. These have been circulated to members. As I said, we will be dealing with them in the order that I mentioned. The first item being St James School application 9148. Can I remind members and speakers that we are dealing on this issue purely with the issue of fencing. Peripheral issues are not material in this application. We're dealing with the fencing. The manner in which we will deal with the application is that I'll invite planning officers to present the report in the first instance. I think it's Jodie Turton who's going to do this first one. Following which, I will invite the ward councillor who has indicated their wish to speak, Councillor Flitcroft. I will then invite representatives on behalf of objectors and then on behalf of the applicants. Councillor Flitcroft will have 5 minutes to speak as ward councillor. The objector and applicant representative will each have 3 minutes. After each of those 2 presentations, will be invited to take questions from members of the committee. So, Can I first of all ask the auditor to present the report? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the application is for a 2.5 metre high weld mesh fence to secure the school site and playing field. The application is before committee for decision as it is a major application due to the site area and has received in excess of 5 letters of objection. Details of the concerns raised by residents are shown in detail on pages 49 and 50 of the report to committee. Members' attention is drawn to the list of supplementary information which details a further letter of objection which has been received and relates to recent flooding of the school field. Officers do not consider the proposed fence to have any impact on flooding or flood risk at the school. The application is considered to be policy compliant and is therefore recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Could I invite Councillor Flitcroft, please, to address committee? Councillor, you have 5 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking today as Ward Councillor after being approached by a number of concerned residents from both Brindley Close and Highfield Road, asking me to represent them and present their issues. Firstly, I'd like to point out that they feel that the application really should have been 2 separate applications, as many reasons highlighted by the applicant only apply to the field on Lucas Road, which residents agree has many issues, and do not apply to the field referred to as Dixon Green, which is behind the school and bordered by Brindley Close and Highfield Road. This is the field I am referring to in my representations, not the Lucas Road field. They have highlighted numerous concerns regarding this application and the negative effects they feel it will cause. For many, many years, residents have benefited from the use of the field outside of school hours through an agreement with the school, almost like a right to roam agreement. Obviously, and quite understandably, they are upset at the prospects and possibility of losing this. While they recognise that this was enabled by the school as a gesture of goodwill, they are saddened that this may come to an end. This field has been described to me by residents as their oasis, many accessing the field directly from their gardens. There are many areas around the edges of the field of clumps of brambles and growth. I'm sure that members will know the notoriety of this plant and the problems it can cause. Residents have in the past kept on top of the problem by keeping them cut back and under control in most places. It is residents' fears that if approved, the fence will leave the brambles locked between it and residents' boundaries. The brambles then in no man's land will get overgrown and out of control, encroaching on residents' gardens. If this is approved, the steps should be taken to ensure that this doesn't happen. For example, the removal of the brambles and the area exposed made good and not just left as wasteland. As I have said, residents have had access to the field for many years. This has meant that the school has benefited from the residents looking after the open space, keeping it free of litter and waste foodstuff. This in turn has helped with rodent control. If this was to cease because approval was granted, would the school take over this responsibility? It is residents' fears that the field would become strewn with litter and there would be an increase in pests. Residents have concerns that they will be unable to maintain their boundary fences or hedges, with there being no gaps detailed in the plans, allowing for reasonable access. They have asked that if approval is granted, then a condition be sought to include that a reasonable space be left to allow residents to gain access and maintenance of boundary fences or hedges, and for any brambles that would fall into that void to be removed. The suggestion in the officer's report that this working space isn't needed as residents can remove fence panels and maintain them off-site is quite honestly laughable. Not all of the boundary fences are of the post and panel type, and there are also gardens that have edges. These boundaries are fixed and are unable to be removed for maintenance off-site. Therefore, it's vital that this maintenance space should be a condition if approved. And finally, this field has severely flooded in the past few weeks. While we acknowledge that there was excessive rainfall with Storm Christoph, just last week there was lots of field underwater with nominal rainfall. While the officer's report says that this land isn't on a floodplain, it is quite obvious that there is insufficient drainage. Residents have concerns, as I'm sure the next speaker will go into with more detail about, that this really does need looking into before serious damage is caused to the properties. I would like to thank the committee for the opportunity to present the residents' concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Flitcroft. We now have an objector, Adrienne Tong.
I feel that much of what I was going to say has been covered by.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yes, I have 3 minutes.
You've got 3 minutes, and then questions that from members, please.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
My property backs onto the school field mentioned by Councillor Flitcroft. At the furthest point from the school, I'm at 48 Brindley Close. I can see benefits of the fence, just not from the point of view of safeguarding the school, but also safeguarding my property, as I have in the past been burgled by thieves accessing the back of my home. Also, unlike some of my neighbours, I don't believe that we have any right of access to what is private property, any more than others have a right to come into my property because I have a swing for my grandchildren to use that they would like to use. Although I do know how valuable access to the field was to those of my neighbours who had to shield under COVID restrictions, to be able to walk around the field as exercise when they could go nowhere else was of great benefit. However, the school's disregard for its neighbours, which has been demonstrated over the years in its poor maintenance of the school's boundaries, doesn't give my neighbours any confidence that this fence is in any way for our benefit. Banks of brambles up to 20 feet deep have been allowed to take hold around much of the perimeter. These invade the gardens of a large number of the properties surrounding the school and destroying fences. People were forced to be at home in 2020, and many of them found the time to access the field and clear the backs of their own properties, taking considerable effort to do so. We don't trust the school to maintain the boundaries bramble-free. The grounds maintenance staff drive their tractor to mow the grass, leaving a gap between the vehicle and the fence, and as the undergrowth advances, their mowing circles get ever smaller and smaller to avoid entanglement of the brambles in their machinery. Some neighbours have argued the fence should be farther away, as outlined by Councillor Flitcroft. But in fact, the report shows that ecological considerations have taken priority over the neighbours and damage to their properties. Brindley Close residents have been consulted this time for the first time on any developments that have gone on in Brindley Close, and a subject that is of greater relevance regarding the field has been brushed off by the Planning Department again this month as not relevant in respect of this application. We would like to know when and how our grave concerns over the flooding of the school field and our properties will be heard. My purpose for raising this now is that I thought maybe during the process of erecting a fence, a French drain might be constructed. The improvements and expansion of the school in recent years has shown little regard for its neighbours, and building projects to develop to meet expanding pupil numbers have been proposed. In line with planning committee rules, only a handful of neighbours have been consulted, those immediately bordering the new build and those on the stretch of highway impacted. In Brindley Close, we find out when it's published as a fait accompli in the Bolton News, too late to make objections. Writing to the school and planning department gets a brush off. It is too late. It is approved.
Mrs. Tong, you've had your 3 minutes. You could sum up, please, in one sentence.
We would like the school to uphold its Christian ethos and love thy neighbour.
Thank you very much. I've got questions, please, from Councillor Peel.
Thanks, Chairman. It was quite interesting listening to the objectors. They're quite a balanced presentation there. It has been suggested that a cordon be left between the new proposed fence and the properties to allow for residents to continue with maintenance that they've been doing for a while on the brambles, etc. Can I ask how you feel about that suggestion? Would that be a part solution? I realise it doesn't answer all of your queries, but would that be a part solution for you? And can you also address any particular concerns you may have for security, in that a cordon between back fences and the new fence may well be, or probably would be, open to the public, so in terms of security of your back gardens? Thank you.
To be honest, I don't relish in my declining years going out and clearing brambles, but I can see that if good neighbours worked with one another, they could do it on one another's behalf. I like my garden, and it does get seriously invaded. It climbs trees and comes down from above as well as coming through fences. It's grown so high. My own property was one that my next door neighbour cleared because he felt clearing mine would help clear his. And you're quite right, there is a greater risk. The brambles probably kept people away reasonably effectively. So I'm not really a huge objector to the fence, but different neighbours have different ideas. I think a cordon between, if it was secured at both ends, would enable those neighbours to use the whole thing as a passage behind the back. So if one of your neighbours was a culprit, then they could potentially access the property more easily. I don't know whether that answers your question. So I'm ambivalent about the fence and the idea of the cordon. Personally, my neighbours are not all equally so.
Thanks very much. I will put the same question to the applicant.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Peel. Councillor Howard, please.
Thank you, Chair. There's some similarity, but I just want to pose this to you a bit differently, if I can, Miss Tong. Yeah. I want to get a sense, and I know this is a question to you, and I thank you for making it clear that you think that some of the other residents that you live with in Brindley Close might feel a bit differently. So I want to get a sense of whether for you would want this gap. I'm going to call it a gap, so that you've got some manoeuvrability to deal with bramble. So basically the fence isn't right up to your fence, or do you actually want some sort of system? I know it's private land, it's a school that looks after itself, where there is a degree of formal supervision. I'm not wanting to use that word enforcement, but all this stuff about untidy land is a matter where people that own land that are causing problems for others nearby, that can be taken up. So I'm trying to get a sense. What I've not heard about is whether you want something to kick in that's a bit better, a bit more formal, for the school to be doing more to maintain its responsible area, which sounds like litter and bramble, that's going to affect residents here on these fences, on this fence area at Brindley Close.
Thank you very much for asking that question. Thank you very much for asking that question, because that is exactly what I would like. But it does seem from the officers' reports that the ecological considerations of having wildflowers and some area of land and planting would be beneficial, and I can understand that point of view as well. But the brambles is the huge concern, and I don't know whether you can have the one without the other. The school maintaining that better would be a great help, in my opinion. The corner where I live is a bit of a sharp point, and when we first moved there, the naughty boys and girls used to go down there for a smoke. So 25 years ago, and up to about 20 years ago, that area was very accessible, but the children now are not allowed to use this field a great number of times. Most of the dinner times, they are not there. In that area, you don't see that many youngsters on the field. But the brambles have just completely, there must have been from the point to the edge of the brambles must have been best part of 30 foot, which is the deepest part, with no, as I say, mowing in circles, ever decreasing circles to avoid keeping the brambles in and the outer area where it's overgrown under any control at all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cato. Thank you, Mrs. Tong, for that. Could I invite Andrew Lee now, please, to speak on behalf of the applicants? Mr. Lee,
hello, yeah.
And then question.
Thank you very much. Can I start off by thanking you for considering the application and the chance to be represented at the meeting. As a school, you're aware that we have a legal obligation to maintain a secure perimeter in order to ensure safeguarding procedures are effective. To support the school with our need to make our current provision more fit for purpose, the government have awarded us a grant for £112,000. If I could begin with the area that seems to be the most contentious at the back, we call it the grids. It's a fabulous teaching area in theory because it's inaccessible from any road, which minimises trespassing, dog fouling, littering, etc. But unfortunately, the security of the area has now been compromised, which is creating enhanced security concerns. Several residents with properties backing onto the field have created their own gateways into the area, and the removal of fence panels by one of the residents has facilitated open access to Brindley Close. We actually feel that it was at this point of entry that the school was broken into the other week. Although they've been informed of this, we feel that some of the neighbours remain oblivious to the safeguarding issues that they're creating by breaching the fencing. We have to remove remains of barbecues, clean up dog messes and fires. And even on one occasion, I had to try and find what home a young child lived in who was wandering around the site during the school day. Last year, one resident decided to burn a lot of garden refuse on the teaching space whilst our children were on the yard, and was very challenging when he was confronted. I think moving on to the playing fields in the area at the front, there seems to be less objections, but the broken antiquated fences there virtually allows for free access to the site, resulting in constant issues with litter and refuse. Mixed up with that litter is drug paraphernalia, broken glass bottles, tin cans, and when the fields are mowed, the litter becomes shredded and embedded into the grass, creating booby traps for children to slip on and cut themselves. And in fact, we have had injuries from that in the past, and we have had some legal action taken against us. Motorbikes and quad bikes are entering the fields through gaps in the fencing, causing damage to the pitches, and we've had to abandon some lessons because of the nuisance value to those and obviously the danger. We've had fires being lit on the AstroTurf and the artificial cricket wicket, which is costing us thousands of pounds to keep in a fit state. Dog walkers can now access the fields through the holes in the fences, and the consequential dog mess creates all sorts of health and safety issues. And again, when the teachers are challenging their owners, we get very aggressive and abusive responses. I think we are an outward-facing school, and we want the community to have a controlled access to the facility. And with that in mind, we opened up the field for community use in 2005. And I'm proud to say that the facilities are now used under the supervision of fully qualified coaches and officials most evenings and weekends. And we feel it's very important and creates a sense of community and pride and ownership in the facility, but it obviously also enhances our need for increased safeguarding. I think the proposed fencing design will allow the school to operate in a safe manner by controlling access to the site. It will allow us to fulfil our health and safety regulations and Ofsted criteria, and hopefully we can also comply with your directives and arboricultural requirements as a consequence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Peel, you had a question?
Thanks, Chairman. Couple of questions. Yep. First of all, can you just clarify for us, just so that it's clear in my mind, the field that is currently open to community use from 2005, is that that's the large field to the west of the site?
That's the large field at the front. We do have very occasional. We call the area at the back that I think most of the objections are about. We call those the grids because it's a coaching area, gridded coaching area. Very few community things happen there.
Okay, so my first question is it the school's intention to continue to facilitate and regulate community use on that site?
post-COVID, yes, we've already got a company who's going to manage the site for us. We're talking about the main school playing fields now, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we've got a company who's going to manage it for us on a similar basis to last time, with local clubs having full access.
Okay, thanks. My second question, obviously you've heard the comments and concerns about the maintenance of the site. So I'm looking at the Dixon, what's called Dixon Green site. I think you called it the grids.
The grids, yeah.
You outlined a number of quite worrying issues there, but residents are suggesting a possible buffer zone or a cordon. I think they're called cordon sanitaires, whereby the security of the school would be maintained, but there would be a short buffer zone so that residents could maintain the backs of their fences or cut away the brambles, etc. Is that something that you envisage that the school could facilitate?
It seems perfectly reasonable to me, yes, as long as it's not 20 metres wide. Yes. If it's a reasonable width, I can't see a problem with it. And it will obviously, sort of, if we have a clear boundary, there's no real clear boundaries at the moment. I appreciate what was it Mrs. Tong was saying about the brambles, fully appreciate that. And it will give us more access to sort of have clear boundaries for maintaining those as well.
Okay, thanks very much. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Councillor Field. Thank you, Mr. Lee. There are no further questions.
Thank you.
Can I ask, no members indicate question to officers, so the matter is now open for debate. Members want to open the debate?
Nick's indicated, John, Chair.
Sorry, I can't see the picture. Sorry about that. Please, yes, thank you.
I've indicated, Chair. Yes,
thank you, Councillor Peel. Sorry, I can't see your pictures. All right, Councillor Peel.
No problem. Yeah, it's a really interesting application, isn't it? On the face of it, it should be very, very straightforward. But I think we've heard. I know I was quite appalled listening to what the representative of the school was saying. Shouldn't be appalled really, because this happens at other schools, especially the issue of neighbours bringing the dogs to mess up fields. It always amazes me how that happens. And clearly there are some antisocial elements. Vast majority of people would respect the neighbourly situation, I'm sure. So the school does have a very, very strong case. It does need to secure its property, its site, to safeguard its children. That is beyond a shadow of a doubt. However, I do think we've got to have some sympathy with those residents, and I think it's a Blindley Close, if I pronounced that correctly, in terms of their maintenance needs. I mean, I'm very happy to move the application. I think we must move the application. We must facilitate the school's security. I'm very happy that they're continuing with the community use on the larger site as well. That's really good and does appear to address some of the issues raised by Councillor Flitcroft. But in moving it, Chair, can I suggest, rather than us trying to iron out intricacies now, can I suggest that some dialogue continue between planning officers and the ward councillors in terms of this buffer zone? If indeed that's what residents want, we have to check that first. If there can be a cordon sanitaire there between the back of the properties and the new fence, how that would work. Would it be open access to the general public, or could it be gated at either side, which would certainly be my preference, and obviously how wide it would be. So I would move it, Chair, with that condition, that these discussions take place, that you facilitate those discussions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peel. Councillor Morgan, please.
Thanks, Chair. Nick's pretty much said everything that I wanted to say. That the safeguarding of the children at the school is paramount. But obviously, it's in everybody's interest that the school are good neighbours and to the people that live around the school. So I would support Councillor Peel's suggestion that we approve, subject to those discussions being had between the school and the ward councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Howarth, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. The first thing I want to say is that I do feel informed enough to come to a decision on this. I wasn't sure whether I was going to be, when it's the sort of thing where you feel like you might want to have had a bit more of a look yourself, but you know, I thank Councillor Flitcroft for coming and giving quite a bit of detail about other members of the public's view, and obviously we did have an objector. It sounds like what's just been requested by Councillor Peel and Morgan, the thing that stood out for me will probably be picked up. That of course the school wants to get this addressed, absolutely, and there's been testimony about why, and that because they have these public responsibilities, you know, important public responsibilities that schools have. But there is this issue of the bramble at Brindley Close, so I would like that to very much be just considered. Those that really understand bramble, how it ends up being 30 foot, 20 foot, how can it be maintained? How can the school be assisted with it growing from its side? What can it do? That is something I would request very much. The other thing I want to say, which won't surprise people, is that when you look at the map of this, people will realise that this is an application in the Farnworth ward, but actually on, forgotten whether it's east or west side, sorry. On one side, you will see that standout words, Meadow Walk. Now, there is no question that I've gone through all of that with a fine-tooth comb and had a look at everything pertaining to the effect to Meadow Walk, because there are residents there. And we had a bit of casework about a year ago, so got to know the tree issue quite well there. So this is just to reassure that there was things to look at for Harper Green councillors, and there's something called Run 2 of the fence there. Now that's going to have something of a gap, but there are, if you read through the whole document, you'll realise that there are gates put in there. There's a lot of trees in a group of trees called G6. But all of that is explained and fully gone through, and there's a decent plan for that. It's clear where the boundary is, it's clear what the school's responsibility is, it's clear what the maintenance arrangements are. So for that side of this, which hasn't come up through objectors today, it was mentioned a little in the bundle, but it's just to say that, you know, have gone through all of that, and on behalf of residents, are satisfied, and all the best to the school in its future management and its responsibilities. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I've no further speakers, so just to summarise for clarity, Mr. Allen, members have proposed and seconded that the application be approved subject to discussions with the school to seek to address some of the issues raised by residents, and that then be consulted with chairman, vice chairman and ward members. Members happy that that is the proposal? Mr. Allen, we can incorporate that.
Chair, do we want to include an aspect about the issue that Councillor Howarth raised about the brambles? Do we need to include that into that, or will that be included in the discussions?
I saw that as being part of the wider conversation about that rear access and treatments.
Right,
Chair.
thank you.
Chair,
I think that's what Councillor Peel and Morgan moved and seconded.
Chair, so I assume that would be a delegating
Delegated to officers in consultation with chair, vice chairman and ward members.
That's fine, yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. And it's clear therefore on what they're voting, for or against that. Can we take the vote, please, Mrs. Bailey?
Yes, Chair. I'll take the vote now. Councillor Ayub.
For.
Councillor Darvish.
For.
Councillor Dean.
For.
Councillor Howarth.
For.
Councillor Hayes.
For.
Councillor Hornby.
For.
Councillor Mistry.
For.
Councillor Morgan.
For.
Councillor Peel.
For.
Councillor Radcliffe.
For.
Councillor Sherrington.
For.
Councillor Walsh,
4,
Councillor Wright,
4.
Councillor Newall.
4.
That's carried, Chair.
thank you very much indeed. Do we need to bring Councillor Sanders back into the meeting?
Yes, I'll just call him now into the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Just give
And
a
can
few
we say
moments.
goodbye to the school and the objector?
Yeah, I was going to thank then the objection, the applicant, Councillor Flitcroft. Thank you very much indeed for your participation.
Thank you for your support as well. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thanks,
the
Chair.
opportunity to be heard.
I'll just check that they've left the meeting, Chair. Councillor Sanders is back in the meeting now.
Yeah, I'm back in the
Thank you,
room. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just checking that. I think we're
Yeah,
all in
thank
order
you.
now. Yeah,
The next application is H141, Land at the River Rocker Restaurant. Are we joined today by Mr. Pike? Mr. Pike joined the meeting.
Chair, I have rang him and he is ringing in now as we speak, I think.
Thank you very much. Just need to give a few moments in that case.
right, he's here, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Pike, can I just be clear you're here in meeting?
I'm here, yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. Rear of Rocker Restaurant. Mrs. Williams, I think you're leading on this one.
Thank you, Chair. This application was deferred at the last committee meeting as ward councillors had a number of questions they wished to ask the applicant. These questions have been answered by the applicant and are reported in the officer's report within the background section. The applicant's agent is also at the meeting today to answer any further queries that members may have. Members will note that that following the applicant's response to the question about providing electronic vehicle charging points within the development, officers are now recommending a condition to secure these. With regards to the applicant's proposal to upgrade the stone steps within the park, rather than a condition, officers are suggesting this may be able to be secured through a Section 106 agreement. As previously reported to members, officers consider that the previous reasons for refusing apartments on the application site have now been fully addressed. The resolution to members is now amended, so members are recommended again to delegate the decision to the director, but this time in conjunction with the chair to investigate how the upgrade of the park steps can be delivered and also to secure the provision of the Section 106 agreement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. We have therefore representative of the applicants. Pike. Mr. Pike, you've got up to 3 minutes to address the committee and then take any questions members may have.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. As you're aware, this is a planning application for a 3-storey development consisting of 17 apartments and 22 car parking spaces. The access to the proposed development is to be through the existing car park to the side of what is now the Rocker Restaurant. This is the access that was previously approved and is an extant approval on a previously approved application. There is a loss of some trees within the proposed development, but this has been agreed with the council's tree officer and that there will be some replanting of trees to mitigate this loss. As this matter was deferred, I'm here to answer any further questions any of the committee may have. So please feel free to ask when ready.
Thank you, Mr. Pike. I've no indications of any questions at this stage. So the matter is open for debate. Can I invite Councillor Ratcliffe, please?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to ask the questions that are shown on the latest application and the answers given by the applicant. The stone steps that lead down to Bradshaw Brow are of great importance to the people living in the area as they enable them to gain access to Longsight Park and Bolton Arboretum. So I'm very pleased to see that the applicant states intentions to upgrade and reinstate them. If this can be secured by a condition in the 106 agreement, I'm happy to propose approval of this application and it be directed to the Director of Place and Borough Solicitor to complete the necessary formalities, but in conjunction with the Chair and Ward Councillors to investigate how the upgrade of the steps can be delivered, potentially through the 106 agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ratcliffe. Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Chair. I've not got much to add really to what Councillor Ratcliffe has already said. I was quite comfortable at the last meeting with the update from Highways regarding the configuration of the traffic lights. However, I'm very pleased with the steps that have been mentioned, because I think that's something that's really important to local community and has been mentioned by a number of people to us. So I'm happy to second the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Councillor Howard.
Sorry, Chair, I haven't indicated.
I'm sorry. I've looked at the previous debate. Sorry, Councillor Howard. I've no further indication of members wishing to speak. It has been proposed and seconded. Ms. Darlan, the proposal to use the 106 method has been discussed with the department. I'm sure that can be incorporated now in the resolution.
Yeah, that's correct, Councillor. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. Members therefore are voting for or against the application as amended, both by Councillor Ratcliffe. Mrs. Bailey, please.
Yes, Chair. Councillor Ayub.
For.
Councillor Darvish.
For.
Councillor Dean.
For.
Councillor Howarth.
For.
Councillor Hayes.
For.
Councillor Hornby.
For.
Councillor Mistry.
For.
Councillor Morgan.
For.
Councillor Peel.
For.
Councillor Radcliffe.
For.
Councillor Sanders.
For.
Councillor Sherrington.
For.
Councillor Walsh.
For.
Councillor Wright.
For.
Councillor Newall.
For.
That's carried, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. The application is therefore approved, subject to. Thank you, Mr. Pike.
Thank you.
We move on to next application, which is the land south of Freshfield Avenue. And again, we have a supporter to speak on this one, Matthew Rhodes. Can we make sure he's a member in the meeting, please?
Chair, I have just rang him and he's currently dialing in.
Thank you.
Yes, they're in the lobby. I'll just allow them in.
Thank you.
They're in the meeting, Chair. I'm just admitting them. They're in.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Can I just make sure, Mr. Rhodes, you're in the meeting, you can hear us?
Yeah, yes, I am, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Next application, therefore, is the land south of Freshfield Avenue. The process, Mr. Rhodes, for your benefit is that the application will be an officer. I will then invite you to speak in support for a maximum of 3 minutes and take any questions members may have, and then the matter will be open for debate. So again, I think this application again is Helen Williams. Is it? Sorry, it's not. It's Jodie Turton. Sorry, my apologies.
No problem, Chair. Thank you. So the application proposes a secondary school, sixth form entry, which will replace the temporary school currently operating at the former Hayward school site. A large 2-storey building is proposed with a 70 space car park and associated playing fields. Access to the site will be via a bridge over Will Hill Brook. The site is a greenfield site within the allocated greenbelt. The proposal is contrary to greenbelt policy. However, the applicant has put forward very special circumstances, which are the demand for school places in the borough, which without the new school will result in a shortage of school places. And also no other suitable or available sites can be found within the catchment area. A further benefit of the development will be community access to the sports facilities to be secured via a community use agreement. The main harm identified is the impact on the openness and purposes of the greenbelt, landscape and visual impacts on sensitive receptors, and the impact on the public right-of-way. A legal agreement has been agreed to secure provision for pedestrian and cycle improvements. Members' attention is drawn to the list of supplementary information which contains details regarding conditions and also a summary of further comments received from landscape officers. 4 letters of objection have been received and a letter of comment from a ward councillor. The benefits of the development are considered to outweigh the harm identified, and members are therefore recommended to approve the application, although this will need referring to the Secretary of State due to the application being contrary to policy in terms of greenbelt impact, and also the legal agreement will need to be secured. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you very much indeed. Can I invite Mr. Rhodes, please, to address the meeting?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I only intend to highlight a few key points, as I believe the officer's report deals with all relevant matters, and I endorse the recommendation. The proposed development will provide a permanent home for King's Leadership Academy, which opened within temporary accommodation in September 2019. The new campus will enable the school to deliver a high-quality education to its pupils, which it believes is the same standard of the best of England's independent or grammar schools. The school is critical to addressing an educational need and forms an integral part of the Council's secondary school provision over the coming years. Based on data provided by the Council's pupil places team, without the school opening by September 2022, there would be a shortage of around 500 secondary school places within the borough, with this rising to over 1,000 places by 2023. National and local policy attaches great weight to the creation and expansion of schools, and together with community use of the school facilities, the proposed development will deliver significant benefits and ensure the council fulfills its statutory duty to provide sufficient school places. In terms of design, the project team have worked closely with officers to secure a building that uses a soft palette materials that includes timber together with stone and mineral coloured panelling, and I am pleased that officers have acknowledged this design should be afforded some benefit. In terms of highways, officers have concluded that proposals will not have a detrimental impact on highways or raise any significant safety concerns. The site is located in a sustainable location, and through the implementation of a travel plan and off-site highways works, pupils and staff will be encouraged to travel by sustainable means. Throughout the application process, we have provided additional information where sought, and as a result, there are no objections to the proposed development for any of the technical consultees. The site's greenbelt location requires substantial benefits of the scheme to be weighed against any harm, and officers have concluded that the benefits associated with the development outweigh the harm to the greenbelt in this instance, and that very special circumstances exist to justify delivery of the school on this site. Officers have recommended a condition to serve some additional landscaping on Freshfield Avenue frontage in order to improve screening, and the applicant is willing to work with officers to improve this boundary. We are extremely excited to deliver this much needed school, and we are keen to begin work on site promptly to ensure that it is open by September 2022. I therefore kindly request the committee support the officer recommendation and approve the application. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Rhodes. Can I invite Councillor Peel, please? Question.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just interested in terms of what other sites were considered. Clearly, when we're looking at a secondary school, we're looking at quite a large catchment area. So we'll probably be looking at almost the entirety of South Bolton area. What other sites were considered, and why were they rejected or not considered viable? Because this is obviously a very, very important point that needs to be addressed before for considering development within the Greenbelt? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor. Yeah, so the catchment area that was the search area that was sought was based on the catchment area of what the school will have, which was the local postcode area, which I cannot recall off the top of my head. That goes through various stages in terms of looking for sites, things looking at the planning policy position of those sites, their availability in terms of ownership, and also the factors of the suitability from the school's perspective in terms of space being the key one. That went through a fairly rigorous set of analysis, and then the report associated that was submitted in support of the application. And I think there were two sort of key sites that were looked at in a bit more detail, both of which were, I believe, were council owned, and was site off Wigan Road and the former Hayward School, where the temporary school is at the moment. I think in terms of the Wigan Road site, I don't think that was available, and it wasn't really suitable for this site for a number of reasons. And for the former Hayward School site, I think it's post the temporary school use. I think it's earmarked for the council for residential purposes to address obviously housing need as well. So there was a sort of fairly rigorous process that's been followed to sort of find the most sequentially preferable site, and the application site is that one indeed.
Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Darvish.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. A couple of quick questions, and a question about the catchment area. First of all, the highway study, the transport assessment. I'm assuming the transport assessment includes the school in full operation with all its 5 or 6 years. And the investment, the other question is about the investment. How much investment is actually involved in terms of propping up the school, building the school, and also building the bridge? Then I'll ask you again about the catchment area, please.
So yeah, the highways assessment assesses the school in terms of full operation, so 900 pupils plus the staff. In terms of the investment, I don't know the exact figure off the top of my head, but obviously it's a significant investment to deliver this school. Yeah, I'm not sort of privy to that detail, unfortunately. But yeah, it sort of goes without saying the scale, the size of the school, and sort of pupils it will serve. It's a significant investment.
Okay, so if I can come back now about the catchment area. Now, I'm aware the south of Bolton, the BL3, especially that postcode, yeah, there's a massive, huge shortage of school places for secondary schools, and I think everybody's actually aware of that. And we've all got our issues in our own wards. Eden Boys School, what they did when they were looking for a place, identified BL3 as an area. They had the same problem as yourselves, which they couldn't find a suitable location. So what they actually did, they decided to come to the north of Bolton, and they allocated so many spaces per year for the BL3 area, because that was their original intention. So in their admissions policy actually says that we're going to have 50 kids every year from the BL3 area. Now, that's not an issue, because the catchment area for a very good school becomes the whole of Bolton. People from the other side of Bolton will come. They've arranged a bus to transport all these kids from BL3 up towards into Crompton, the north side of Bolton. So my issue is this: Eden Boys School couldn't find a location. They didn't go there and set up a temporary location with a view to potentially finding a location in the future. I'm just wondering if you set your stall out a bit too early by almost saying we will be getting this planning permission, and that's why we've already located where we are currently in the temporary location. And have you not considered the same procedure as Eden Boys School in terms of allocating a number of places to deal with the shortage in that area, but actually locate the school somewhere else?
In terms of answering the question as best I can, I guess, is I think the significance of the need is probably dictated sort of the size of the school and where it needs to be, and obviously from sustainability perspective and serving the local area, it's better to have the school located close to the the residents and pupils that it will serve, and obviously the school wants to form part of the community that it sits within, and in terms of community use. I don't think there's been a presumption of setting up the school and looking forward and thinking that we'd get planning permission. I think the DFE before Elliott's, the contractor got involved, had sort of got worked with Bolton Council to sort of look at where their need is and sort of pull together a plan of best how to tackle that need. So I don't think there's any sort of presumption on that basis.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. There are no further questions, Mr. Rhodes, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Chair.
The matter is now open for debate. Ward Council wish to speak? Councillor Mistry? Councillor Howard?
Sorry, John. Sorry, Councillor. Sorry, Chair. I've been trying to unmute myself and find a camera for myself. Got myself in a twist. Yes, I intend to speak. Sorry, the location, the current location of King's College in the old Haywood site has sort of, we found that it's established itself as a school now, and it's actually now accepted by a lot of people that it is a very good location to have a school within the vicinity of that particular area. It's important that we look at working with the school to be able to move it into a new location, as their planning application is going to expire in 2020. As far as intake of students, we've had a lot of petitions from a lot of people within the ward wanting a school, and as the school has indicated, there's going to be about 500 places required within the next 2-3 years. We need to address this. Harper Green ward has 5 council estates. We want a school in the ward where kids can be within their walking distance or within near distance, which makes sense, to be having a school. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this school come into the Harper Green ward. The issues of some of the reports clear in that the schools addressed about the number of issues in terms of security, how it's going to address how the school building is going to be built, and I'm quite satisfied with the report in terms of the delivery of the school within the next 12 months. One of the things I do think we should look at is making sure that the 106 agreement for having a traffic assessment, when the school opens, be built into the conditions so that it does happen. With that in mind, I'll move approval so that the Secretary of Authorised Director of Borough Solicitors to complete the necessary legal formalities in consult with the Chair and move approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mistry. Councillor Newall, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I do understand the need for school places and the need for a school, and I've followed the remarks made by the ward councillor. I'd just like to make a few comments about this, Chair. Once again, we've got an application before us on Greenbelt land, and we're mitigating reasons why we're going to build on Greenbelt. This was done the last time that I sat on this committee when we needed to build a Lidl and some flats on the Greenbelt, and now it's a school. And I'm taking up what Councillor Darvesh mentioned before. I am sure it's not beyond the wits of us to find a location to accommodate the number of school places that we need, to find a location that doesn't involve the Greenbelt. I mean, on in the report, there's several areas, paragraphs 105, 6 and 7. It says the proposal will harm the greenbelt. The scale and siting is at odds with the open nature of this area, and it breaches 2 of the 5 purposes of the greenbelt. It doesn't meet the criteria regarding sustainable design and construction. And it just looks like we sleepwalk into talking ourselves into building on the greenbelt when we've not exhausted all other opportunities. I mean, this has been moved for approval. I'm sure it will be seconded for approval. And I will vote with that because I do understand that we have to have a school. But I just think we're on a slippery path here with the greenbelt. And I know this isn't going to be our decision. It's going to go to the Secretary of State. But I do think we ought to take stock of just how precious our greenbelt is in Bolton. And you know, I feel the attitude is becoming a little bit cavalier in as much as, well, we need it, so we're going to build it there. So I think it's something we ought to be more wary of. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Newell. Councillor Morgan, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just with regard to what Councillor Newell just said, I absolutely agree we should be doing all we can to protect the green belt, but I think it's a bit of a red herring to say that the school and the council has not looked for alternative sites within the BL3 area. This is been decided it's the most appropriate site and is exactly where the school places are needed. I disagree with Councillor Darvish saying let's build it in the north of Bolton and let's bus everybody across. This is about putting assets, community assets, where they're needed and where the people that will use that school live. And it's about sustainable travel plans. I think Councillor Misty touched on it with regards to like getting these kids to walk to school instead of being driven or bused or whatever. So let's build the school where it is. But I can't stress how sensitive the timing of the delivery of this school is. Councillor Misty touched on it. The planning permission for the temporary school runs out, I think in about 12 months' time or just over. When that site was established, it was established as a one class intake and is not appropriate. If this is delayed much longer, it's not an appropriate place to have a 2-class site, which was promised to the people that have sent their children to it currently. So, you know, this really is crucial to our obligation as an authority to provide school places. That said, I completely agree with what Councillor Lewis said. It needs to be appropriate, but this is an exceptional circumstance for building on the green belt. It's where the school's needed, like I said, but the timeline is critical now, and these places are needed. And you know, I would ask committee to make a decision on this site. They have looked at alternative sites, but this is the most appropriate. So I'll support Councillor Mystery in approving the application to go forward.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Darvish, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few things to actually say about this application, and the first thing I want to say to Councillor Morgan is don't worry about the timeline, the deadline, which the planning permission for the temporary permission actually expires in 2022. I said don't worry about that simply because there's a primary school in Crompton which actually does not benefit from planning permission at this moment in time, and the council will not be shutting it down. It'd be ridiculous for us to shut a school down, especially when we can't offer them alternative provision, but the planning permission actually does not exist for that school. So you can expect this temporary planning permission to be extended, and it can keep getting extended. For me, it's very simple. Councillor Newell is right. You know, there is a cavalier approach, but for me, you know, I think I'm going to stick to my guns on this. It's very simple. The benefits do not actually outweigh the harm. What we're talking about is a 16-acre development here. The status of the land actually changes forever. We're going to lose this bit of green belt. Now, when you start reading the report and it talks about policy A, one of the core strategy, the wording, you can get captured by the wording because, you know, you're almost starting to believe yourself where the benefits actually outweigh the harm. But this is different. This is because it's on Greenbelt. Now, when we previously decided planning permissions on other protected space, we've always talked about the tilted balance, where the tilted balance talks about whether the benefit outweigh the harm. Okay, just about, and you got this tilted balance approach here. The benefit has to clearly outweigh the harm. And for me, I've just mentioned a scenario with Eden Boys School where, you know, they couldn't build on Greenbelt in the south simply because it wouldn't have been allowed. Possibly they probably did try looking for places exactly the same way as this school was actually didn't find, but they were thinking out of the box. They decided, you know what, the catchment area for that school will be the whole of Bolton. They don't mind people travelling, but they're also accommodated kids from the BL3 region. Now, the reason why I asked about the investment is when we think about our Bolton town centre, which, let's face it, is not far away from the BL3 postcode. When we talk about development in Bolton town centre, we talk about the retail core shrinking, the offices being actually there, but plenty of housing. I'm sure we could incorporate this type of massive investment, incorporate into some sort of regeneration project in Bolton town centre or close by in the periphery to create a school, because that's where the demand is going to be in the future. And it's not far away from the BL3 postcode. So, I mean, I've just seen Alex actually saying the land would remain in the green belt. Okay, that's fine. But I'm talking about this land actually changing forever with this site being present actually on this. So for me, you know, this type of development does not cause that much benefit. It causes more harm. I'd happily be interested in something like the Bolton Hospital, for example, extended onto the Greenbelt, but not a new development for a school on the Greenbelt. So for me, it's also set some sort of precedent. I think the investment could be somewhere else. I think the catchment area should be the whole of Bolton. I think there's a lot more that can be done in this application. So, and as ward councillors, I totally sympathise with Councillor Mystery. I mean, we ended up with the free school here, the Eden Boys School, and obviously we supported the application because there's a big need in the area. But on principle, I believe that the benefits do not outweigh the harm, and therefore I will be supporting refusal on this application, and hopefully I can get someone to second it.
Thank you, Councillor Darvish. Councillor Peel, please.
Thanks, Chairman. Certainly won't be seconding refusal. Listen with interest to what Councillor Darvish said, and although he made some good points, Kate did come to the wrong conclusion. I think, I mean, certainly in my mind, it might have been another councillor who mentioned this. In my mind, there are certain things that are or should be permitted within the Greenbelt, and those things are activities that directly benefit the community. So not, I mean, I would always be, and always have been against things that are just simply house building or enterprises of that case, but things that directly benefit the community, educational facilities, health facilities, that type of thing. The other thing that Councillor Darvish said, which is true, but this is an argument for another day, is the need for Bolton Town Centre in the future, should the regeneration plans be as successful as we all hope they will be, then there will be need for infrastructure, both education and health, to serve that population, which it be over 2,000 extra people living there. So I am supporting the application because the benefits do massively outweigh the harm. But I indicated because I wanted to sympathise with what Councillor Newell said, but sympathise from a different point of view. People forget, when people talk about the Greenbelt in Bolton, they think of it as the large, huge tracts of land to the west of Bolton. If you ever look at a borough map and you look at the massive amount of Greenbelt to the west of Bolton and to the north, wrapping around Smithles after the bridge, etc., but mainly to the west. But people forget that the Greenbelt actually starts in Harper Green. That's where it begins and then moves right up, right past Horwich, only broken by older developments or roads. And what does annoy me is the Greenbelt is sacrosanct for people who live in very affluent areas as well as everybody else, and it annoys me a bit that I think this site is chosen because it's an easier site, because there's less opposition. It's easier to deliver due to its ownership. People kind of run a million miles from sites in more, let's say it is more affluent areas where there would be outrage. You know, we all know as members of the planning committee there will be petitions and demonstrations and all sorts of things going on, and so that's where I do sympathise with the people of Harper Green. They're people at Freshfield Road and that estate are entitled to this open aspect as well, and my sympathies are very strong on that. But I think the benefits do outweigh the harm, without a doubt. Future education of our children is massively important, and especially with COVID affecting so much, there's a lot of catching up to do. And the final point is, I do actually agree with Councillor Darvish when he said, don't worry about, when he said to Councillor Morgan, don't worry about the temporary permission expiring because they're not going to close the school down. He's right. But we on planning committee have seen this time and time again over many, many years. This almost, it's almost like blackmail, isn't it? Well, you know, you can't delay this application because the funding's going to run out, or the temporary permission is going to expire. We're quite used to this, and I've always felt that as a planning committee, we've never been influenced by that type of stuff. It's up to the educational people involved in capital projects and planning to not leave it to the last minute. That's my view on that. But all said and done, Chair, I will be supporting the application.
Thank you, Councillor Peel. Mr. Allen, I think Councillor Peel, if I refer to your comment, the land remains in the Greenbelt, and indeed a large portion of the land wouldn't be built upon because it was plain fields and therefore still open land in that sense. Is there anything you want to add to your?
No, that's fine. Thank you, Councillor. I think you've covered it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Newall, want to come back, please, briefly?
Yes, Chair, just briefly, I'd just like to say, seeing as how Councillor Darvish has moved refusal, I would like to second that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It has been Councillor Darvish, a very brief comment, please. You want to come back?
Yeah, please. I mean, if members are minded to approve this application today, can I just suggest the community user agreement be as robust as possible? We had a problem at Eden Boys School where we had some community time on the field, on the actual playing surface, and since they've upgraded it to 3G, it seems like a different ball game now. We're almost having to review this community user agreement, which was actually a legal agreement, but obviously they're a bit precious now, so you need to make sure that is robust, please.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan, final brief comment, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just really want to comment on what Councillor Peel said about, and Councillor Darvish really, about the timing of it. Now, you're absolutely right that the authority would extend the planning permission on the temporary site, but the point is that temporary site is not fit for purpose for a second entry. So we would be hundreds of places down of secondary school places. So that is the point I was trying to make, is we have to move, we have to get somewhere. It's not blackmail, it's fact. We have to find these places in the next 2 or 3 years.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Morgan. So the application has been moved and seconded that it's approved subject conditions, authorised director of place for a solicitor to complete necessary legal consultation with the chairman. I would also ask ward councillors to be involved in that the discussion. Mr. Allen, are you happy with that directive being clear enough?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Thank you very much indeed.
Can I just confirm, Alex, it's not being referred to the Secretary of State?
It is being referred to the Secretary of State. Yeah, that's correct.
It is being referred to the Secretary of State.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, it has been proposed and seconded approval. It's therefore a straight vote, although there was a proposal for refusal, but an amendment for refusal. It's a straight for or against. So the members being asked to vote in favour of the recommendation as just outlined.
Yes, Chair.
Please.
I'll take the vote now then, Chair. Councillor Ayub.
For.
Councillor Darvish.
Against.
Councillor D.
For.
Councillor Hayes.
Against.
Councillor Hornby.
For.
Councillor Mistry.
For.
Councillor Morgan.
For.
Councillor Peel.
For.
Councillor Radcliffe.
For.
Councillor Sanders.
For.
Councillor Sherrington.
For.
Councillor Walsh.
For.
Councillor Wright.
Against.
Councillor Newall.
Against.
That's carried, Chair.
That application is approved as agreed. Thank you very much indeed. We come then to the final application consideration this afternoon, and that is the supporter to speak on this one. Can we call him up, please?
Yes, Chair. I've just asked Councillor Howard to rejoin the meeting, and Vicky will ring the next speaker. Oh,
the speaker's waiting in the lobby now.
Thanks, Vicky. I'll let them in. The applicant's in the meeting now, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Can I just confirm you can hear us? Is it Mr. Patel?
Hi there. Yes, I can hear you.
Fine. Thank you very much indeed. I'll just outline the reports will be presented by the planner, and I'd like you to speak for up to 3 minutes to address committee and take any questions that members may have, and then we will open the matter up for debate.
That's not a problem.
Is it Helen Williams who's dealing with this one, please?
Thank you, Chair. This application is before committee at the request of Councillor Ayub. We've received 2 letters of support as of last night. Those are from the 2 neighbouring residents on either side. Officers consider that the 4-metre wide 2-storey side extension would not be subordinate to the main dwelling and would unbalance the appearance of the semi-detached pair of dwellings. The front building line of the houses on both sides of Daffodil Road is a uniform one, and one that has not been previously encroached. The proposed side extension would encroach significantly beyond this line, appearing overly prominent within the street scene and not in character with the area. The applicant has been advised to display the front elevation of the side extension so that it follows the front building line of the neighbouring properties at numbers 4 to 10 to make the proposal acceptable, but they are unwilling to amend. Officers are therefore recommending that the application be refused as the side extension is considered to harm the character and appearance of the area. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. Mr. Patel, you've now got 3 minutes, please, to address committee.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to mention and speak about how we have got here. Prior to this application, I had applied for and received planning permission for a number of properties in close proximity to this address, from Carnation Road, Lavender Road, Bradford Road and Plodder Lane, all with similar side extension proposals which had received planning permission. We had initially viewed the property directly opposite to us at number 3 Daffodil Road, which had received planning permission and built a side extension without having to step back the proposed first floor side element. Keeping this in mind, we thought it would be okay for us to propose our side extension similarly. Knowing that the garden space at the side of the house is vast at the applicant property, which is over 10 metres between number 12 and number 10 front elevations, the proposed extension would come nowhere near to create a terracing effect, which is often the reason for setting back first floor side extensions as imposed by the planning officers. The 45-degree ruling has also been applied with no effect on the neighbouring properties with our proposal. Rather, the neighbours have expressed their support in written form submitted to the council. When the planning officer was about to decide on the outcome of the proposal, he got in contact with myself requesting that I amend the plans to show the first floor side extension to be set back a little to create a subservient roof. After relaying this request to the applicant, he consulted his family about this change, which took him till the next day to get back to me with approval. Only now, the planning officers had changed their mind and stated that now the full front elevation would need to be set back to keep in line with the neighbour at number 10. The applicant feels aggrieved by this decision, as this proposed change would not only have a significant impact on the extension as a whole internally, but also how the house would look externally. The reason for this further reduction was so that the extension does not come out of line of the street scene. But then this would be hypocritical, as not 20 metres away, we have the house at number 20 Iris Avenue, which is a stone throw away from the applicant property and is also a corner property similar to the applicant, who have had a side extension approved and built out of line of the street scene. This can be seen on the location plan. The applicant does not mind amending the proposal to allow for the first floor setback to provide a subservient roof, as initially requested by the planning officer, but to set the full side extension back would have detrimental effects on the household's plans. So keeping this in mind, we are hoping the council decides in favour of us to keep the ground floor side extension where it is originally shown on the plan. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed. I have no indication of questions from members, so thank you very much for that. The matter is now open for debate. Ward Councillor, Councillor Howarth or Councillor Mystery?
Sorry, Chair, it's me. I'll speak.
Right, thank you, Councillor Mystery.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Chair.
You're busy this afternoon.
I think, and you can hear me. Yeah, I think the applicant's architect has put the full case forward how it's come to how it comes to end up with the committee meeting today. I spoke to my colleague and I think he fed me the same information as what the applicant's architect said. In my view, this application is for a two-story extension on a semi-detached property. It may appear to resemble a terracing effect viewed along a uniform row of semi-detached. However, this property is on end of the row. The 45 degrees, there will be no terracing effect viewed from in conjunction with the rest of the semi-detached properties. And the property sits on a generous plot in keeping the interfaith distances and meets the needs of the growing family. The neighbours are not objecting. There are a number of properties on the Daffodil Road that have extensions, and they all vary in shapes and how they've been built. Now, one of the things I noticed within the report about the policy RA2, which actually reflects about Falmouth, about trying to maintain the character of the housing on the estates to remain and blends within keeping with the character of the estate. I think this extension is going to be no different. It will blend in with the existing, and as such, I move approval for this application, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Chair. And the planning report for this application approaches the planning matters as the policy requires matters to be analysed. Much of this is about matters of the setting of the plot, the side extension, the roof line and so on. Many councillors will know that with roads, there are parts of roads that form small areas. This is especially so with the long avenues, and Daffodil Road is like a long avenue through the estate. This application is at the Harper Green Road end of Daffodil Road. A number of things make it a small area of its own in the way the road works and how the plots work here. Walking onto Daffodil Road off Harper Green Road, the area is very open because you have just passed the entrance to Begonia Avenue, which is a drive straight onto from Harper Green Road. Harper Green fields make the area feel open. Then on the left is an extended property with a 45-degree straight 2-storey extension. This is a retail store. Next to it, the joint semi-detached house is another extended property. Then the left turn to Lily Avenue that takes you up to Lupin Avenue. And these streets, Lupin and Lily, sorry, and then the small bit of Lily, then onto Lupin Avenue. They're the streets for that side of the estate, if you like, which is around 350 properties. The walk down is to the only bus stops when you walk back for Harper Green Road to Bolton. The next part of this small area is at the turn for Iris Avenue, which is where the application plot is on the corner. OK, you've seen the diagram of that, so I'm now talking about the right hand side. On the other corner of Iris Avenue, so I've walked down from Harper Green Road, the property we're talking about is on the right hand side there at Iris Avenue. On the other corner of Iris Avenue, there is already a home that looks different to other properties, as it has a large garage extension with a large white door and dark grey raised drive up to the garage and home. It looks attractive on the corner, but this is a clear example of difference and a change to the 1930s style of houses. There is no doubt that on the estate, changes to and extending a good number of properties has extended how long people stay living in their own properties on the estate. Many residents openly say that this improves living on the estate overall, and I listen to what the residents have to say. The planning policies may not be taking heed of this fully, nor the planning policies for Farnworth either, in the sense that residents need more say on the balance between preservation of matters like terracing of 1930s properties and also homeowner development. There are other extended properties nearby. Turn off Daffodil Road onto Primrose Avenue. This one may have been mentioned. And on the corner, there is a similar application, side 2-storey extension to a home. There are 2 trees and a grass front that look attractive with the extension and assist with blend, as the estate has a lot of trees and many trees are pavement positioned. Primrose Avenue, this corner with Daffodil Road, is a bit further into the estate. The application for 12 Daffodil Road is in a different setting at the end of Harper Green Road, area of Daffodil Road. It's a wide open aspect. There are 2 big properties opposite and 1 modern extended home on the facing corner. I've mentioned that trees and green are not really part of this setting. For 1 more 2-storey extension to go in on the plot in this small area of Daffodil Road, I feel will work. I use my judgment the best I can for residents and for this estate. I have thought options through, like, is there a way to build up green, plant tree, change the right side extension in some way? I've considered that the right side extension as a view, I've considered it as a view as you walk onto Daffodil Road, as you walk down the road on either side, and as you view it walking up or down from Lily Avenue, which is almost opposite. And obviously, so that would be all the people from the other side of the estate walking down what their view would be regularly, walking on from Harper Green Road. And I feel like the side extension will be an agreeable view. This is a well-walked area all day and all evening as people use the shop and so on. Approval that is contrary to officer recommendation, in a sense that that's what I'm saying. I'm seconding my colleague. Where members are minded to approve, if you're minded to approve, reason for this will also need to be provided which explain why the harm identified in the officer's report, that's right, can be set aside. So that's what I'm trying to get at. Again, where the reason for refusal put forward by the officer in the report is technically based. Okay, there's no third, okay, forgive me. I'm perhaps, forgive me, Chair, I'm just finishing off there reading some notes that I made for myself about the important aspects that I've got to outline here today, and I've spoken to the material planning matters, particularly of where it is important for me that I've tried to demonstrate as clearly as I can why on this application I've identified material matters where, for me, in my vote, it will be on this occasion agreeable for me to set aside the harm that's been identified by officers. I say that respectfully today. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that formulation around your ward, Councillor Howarth. Can we invite Councillor Darvesh, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is one of them subjective applications where everybody will have their own opinion, but having listened to Councillor Howarth's version of Street View, I think I'll take into account the local knowledge from both ward councillors, and I will support this application.
Thank you very much. There are no further indications of speakers on this application. It has been proposed and seconded that the application is approved.
Chair.
Mr. Allen, do you want to comment on?
Hi, I think that's yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I mean, yeah, just obviously, I think we just prior to the vote, we just obviously, as Councillor Howarth has indicated, we just as the committee just needs to be clear on if obviously it's been moved and seconded for approval, and just kind of being clear on the reasons for that. Obviously, whilst we don't, as officers, we don't agree with that. I think that from Councillor Mystery's discussion at the start, he raised that I think he, correct me if I'm wrong, he thought that the proposal was in character with the area and complemented it. So, I mean, I think that for me that would be the reason, if unless members have other reasons they would like to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Members that accordingly. That being the case, can we move to the vote, please? Early members are voting for or against approval.
Yes, Chair, I'll move to the vote now. Councillor Ayub.
For.
Councillor Darvesh.
For.
Councillor Dean.
For.
Councillor Howarth.
For.
Councillor Hayes.
For.
Councillor Hornby.
For.
Councillor Mystery.
For.
Councillor Morgan.
For.
Councillor Peel.
For.
Councillor Radcliffe.
For.
Councillor Sanders.
For.
Councillor Sherrington.
For.
Councillor Walsh.
Against.
Councillor Wright.
For.
Councillor Newall.
For.
That's approved, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. That concludes the whole of the planning applications. We come then to notices of appeal decisions. Report to the director. Back of the bundle. Members happy to note that all three cases, inspectors dismissed the appeals and supported council refusal. All three cases, I know, delegated on decisions by officers. So thank you very much for that. Any questions, comments? That being the case, can I thank you for your attendance and declare the meeting closed?
Thank you, Chair. Can we close the meeting, Chris?